Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today on Sarah Carell's The Power of Our Story. For those of you joining us for the first time, welcome. It is the hope of everybody in this group that you will be positively impacted by the vulnerability, the courage, and the selflessness of those in this group, and today by Aaron Terrill. It is the sincere goal of this tribe to let all of you know that you're not alone. You're not on an island alone. To know that it's okay not to be okay, and it's okay to be okay. Every single one of us are imperfectly perfect. We are cracked pieces of art that are now more valuable with all of our blemishes and imperfections than we ever were when we were perfect. We would not have the ability to help anyone as perfect people, but now through the cracks and the times of brokenness that we're able to connect with those who have also been cracked and broken. Your courage to say that, your courage to say that may be the only one that gives someone courage to admit that as well. Then and only then can we begin to heal, process, grieve, and forgive. Again, thank you for joining. My name is Chris Gregorio, and I'm facilitating the conversation, coffee conversation with Aaron Terrill. This will be a little bit different than our normal weekly forum. This will be more of an interview style forum with Aaron. He has a lot to share, and I want to be thoughtful of all of your time, and at the same time ensure Aaron has the ability to share his full story. It quite possibly will go over the normal hour-long group, so please feel free to leave whenever you need to. That is absolutely okay. I promise this journey is one that you'll want to hold on to. I can promise this, that it will be emotional, real, and raw. Nothing will be held back. I'll ask all of you to write down your questions, and we'll have the ability to ask them at the end. Aaron, thanks for being here today, brother. Thank you for your courage, selflessness, and continued service to others. It is your mission now. Your current purpose in life, and if you're okay with it, I'd like to give this opportunity to you now to share your story. If you can start from the very beginning, bro, all the way up to including where you're at today and what that battle is.
Well, thank you for having me on. Thank you for having me on, man. I really appreciate it. This is important to me. My name's Aaron Terrill. I'm a medically retired police officer. I served 18 years on road patrol, and I was on the tactical team for 10 years. Everything kind of started for me. I got a family in law enforcement. I've got some that are in the FBI, some that are in the Marshals, and it got me going at 7 years old. I knew where I wanted to go. At 14, I started working with the Lansing Police Department Explorer Post. I was out doing ride-alongs, community service, focusing on my career I knew I was going to be a police officer. So I was kind of doing everything I could beforehand. When I was 18, I put an application into the police department. They ended up paying for my college and guaranteed me a job as an officer. Funny thing was, I was a cop at 20, wasn't even old enough to buy an off-duty gun, wasn't even old enough to buy bullets for my gun. So I started at 20 years old, and things were great. And then I wanted a little bit more. So when I was about 24, I tried out for the tactical team. So I became one of the TAC officers. And then I decided that I wanted even more. So I went over to the college, to the academy, and I got hired as an instructor in the academy. So my passion and what I'm here for today is to tell my story, my struggles. I'm not going to glorify them. And it's not anything more than just me wanting people to know you're not alone, because I went through a lot. So back March 10th, 2014 at 4:48 p.m., I had 12 minutes to go till the end of my shift. And, and all cops know this. It doesn't matter where you're at. I don't care if I was in the locker room, in my underwear. They put out a tone that there was an MSP, Michigan State Police trooper, that was having an altercation with the subject on the highway. So the number one thing that I did that led to my injury was I became complacent. When I was heading to help her, I was going lights and sirens. I've done it a million times. So I didn't wear my seatbelt, because I wanted to be there to jump out and help her. So on my way to help her, I was T-boned and hit. I got onto the highway to help her, and then there was a vehicle that hit me while we were having an altercation at highway speeds. I don't remember it, but I ultimately ended up watching the videos a couple weeks later. I ended up suffering a traumatic brain injury. I was in the hospital for a while, and it's funny because when I was there, they told me, when you go home, you cannot walk up and down stairs. Well, hey, I'm a cop. I'm a SWAT cop. Nobody's telling me what the hell to do. That was my thought process. What do I do when I get home? I walked up the stairs, turned around, walked back down, slipped, fell, knocked myself out and broke some ribs. Back in the hospital for a while. So after this, I had to have start brain rehabilitation. It was a non-duty injury, so I ended up doing 10 months of brain rehabilitation, 5 days a week, about 6 hours a day. And because it was on duty, I was prescribed a lot of different medications, and I was told that my department, they have never had this before. So I was kind of like a guinea pig, and I was fine with it. While I was going through brain rehab, while I was dealing with my injuries, they always told me, you'll never make it back. They said, take your pension, retire nobly. I said, you don't know me. I don't quit. I'm coming back. A year and 9 months later, I was back on the road. What I want to share is that year and 9 months that I was off the road. I was always straight-laced, clean, because I wanted to be work with their department. I was always, from 14 on, I was involved with the police department. I never had any issues with alcohol, narcotic, nothing. So during that year and 9 months that I was off, because it was a on-duty injury, I had to go to their doctors. I started having horrible nightmares. I had frontal lobe damage, horrible nightmares, horrible PTSD. So the doctors prescribed me a slew of medication. Medication was to help with the dreams, and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't read. I couldn't see. And there was some medications for some other things as well. I was, and this is something that really hit me. I would be sitting at home, and I would, out of nowhere, I would have these horrible nightmares, these horrible daydreams of calls that I was on when I was on the road, and I would break down and cry, and I couldn't tell you why. I started getting really angry. I started doing things that I've never done before, as far as I would punch walls. I would laugh uncontrollably, and then I would cry. And I couldn't understand what this was doing to me, like why. So they gave me more medication. Well, I was taking the medication that they gave me, and I was tired of having the dreams all night. I was turning into what I call the monster. I couldn't control my emotions. I couldn't shut it off, and it just happened. So when they started giving me some different meds, I wanted to try to get through the day and get through these nightmares. So instead of taking 2 of something, I would take 4. Instead of taking 3 of something, I took 6. If we have an experience as law enforcement officers, we're supposed to be straight-laced robots. There's no such thing as PTSD. Well, I was at home fighting this battle in my head every day. I started getting a little bit more aggressive, not to anybody in general, but I was married, I had 3 kids. As it progressed, my wife at the time, she couldn't deal with me anymore. My kids didn't want to be around. I remember one particular time, I went up to my wife at the time, and out of nowhere, I said, "Man, this is messed up, isn't it?" She goes, "What?" I pulled glasses, like wine glasses, out of the cupboard, and I started breaking them in my hands. So I was losing this fight. So I kept this mentality: if I take a little extra of the medication, then I can push through it. Back in February, a couple of years back, it was in February, and I was wearing a t-shirt and shorts. I remember sitting on the couch about 10:30 at night, and I took some meds so I could go to bed. So I remember vividly, I felt like I was outside. I remember falling, and I remember seeing particular things, like just the flashes of different businesses. All of a sudden, a state trooper pulls up, and he's like, "Hey, what the hell are you doing?" I was in a pond. What had happened was some of the medication interacted with me. I ended up walking through my window, walked over the deck, fell, hit my head, got up, walked down the street, no socks, shoes, was in a shirt, and I think somebody hit me with the car because I was laying in the road. I remember crying and then laughing. And then I went and walked through a swamp. I remember feeling the pain of the sticks go through my foot. So my buddy, the trooper, pulled me in. He goes, "What the hell are you doing out here?" He goes, "What time do you think it is?" It's probably 10:30. It was 5 o'clock in the morning. Um, you know, so I, to get through these kind of things, I would take extra medication. I did. And I was destroying everybody and everything around me because not only was I having an issue from the head injury, the medication was not doing me any good. One night I woke up because my wife was screaming. I ended up doing $18,000 in damage to my house because they gave me a little med called Klonopin. And I literally almost burned my house down, and I don't remember any of it. So that was going on for a while. I started drinking, and ultimately, where I'm at now, I lost my wife, lost my kids, and I didn't think it could get any worse. So about 1:30 in the morning, one night, I was sitting in, I called it my temporary grave. It was an oak table, and that's where I'd go every night and cry. Every night I'd go and cry. And all I wanted to do was get that control back. So I thought, I thought many times at that point, it's time to stop. It's time to take that control back. So I was losing everything. I remember sitting at that table, and I went upstairs, got my gun. I came downstairs, put it down, sat at the table, and I told myself, everything's gone. My career, my family, everything was gone. And I was tired of it. So I decided that enough was enough. So I took my gun. I was in this mindset, like a trance. Started to walk outside, and I was gonna, stop the pain. And luckily I got to the door. My dog bit me in the calf, and that pain broke my mindset. And I was like, Jesus Christ, I was really gonna go through with it. So I ended up, right, because I'm really real raw in the moment. That's when I walked over to the table, sat down in the article that posted with this, my story. I sat down, opened my eyes, turned the computer on, closed my eyes, took a couple deep breaths, and just let my heart and soul tell me what to type. So, I fought through that. Ultimately, I made it back to the road. I still had a lot of issues in it, but I wouldn't tell anybody. I got back to the road, I kept fighting, got back on SWAT, started teaching at the academy. Again, all the while at night, I was dying every night. I had 4 specific dreams of calls that I dealt with at work. I would wake up, I had my clothes off, I was bleeding from my chest. I couldn't deal with it. So I started having migraines where my nose would bleed uncontrollably. And, started having cognitive issues, memory issues. That's when somebody from the Wounded Blue ended up reaching out to me. I still have no idea how they got a hold of me. But even though I was at work in this uniform, I'm supposed to be, police officer, we're robots. Nothing bothers us. I was dying every night. And I knew when I got home, how horrible it was going to be. So somebody from the Wounded Blue somehow got a hold of me, and they helped me get the right help that I needed. And, kind of got me straight and narrow there, back on the right course. So after about 1 year and 9 months, on the road, almost 2 years, I ended up being medically retired because the cognitive issues came back. So at this point, now it's done. I mean, literally, I had no wife, no kids, house was gone. I put on this fake facade when I'd go to work that I'm okay. I'm not going to tell, especially when you're on SWAT, you don't talk about PTSD. In that world, it's not real. And I was at home eating my meds because why not? And it's hard. I ended up losing everything, but I got with the Wounded Blue, and they got me some counseling and they helped me through it. And, now that's what I do. I work with Wounded Blue now, and I'm trying to get back. But, I want people to know that when in that uniform, you're supposed to be tough. You're supposed to be strong. You're supposed to be perfect. Man, I wasn't perfect. I was a damn junkie at home. And I'll never forget, I had a recruit in the car. There was a guy standing on the side of the road, holding up a sign, wanting to do anything for money. My recruit, this was before I was medically retired, said, "Hey, look at that guy." I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "He's probably just strung out and he just wants money for drugs." and it hit me. I looked at the recruit and I said, you know what, man? I said, that was me. That is me. He's just got the ambition and the intestinal fortitude to get out and actually try to get money. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I knew I was a monster. I was a monster. I lost my career now, my family, and I was a monster. That's what I looked at. So there was a lot of fighting to get back to where I was, and a lot of fighting with myself. So now at this point, I have a lot of cognitive issues. I deal with a lot of emotional ups and downs. I still have horrible nightmares. I can talk to you, and then all of a sudden I forget what I'm saying, or I forget where I'm at. It's tough. So I wanted to give up. I was done. So I thought to myself, you know what? I could just sit at home, sit on the couch, collect a paycheck, and retire nobly. But I said, or I could just sit here and do nothing because I'm too ashamed to talk about what my struggles were. And I said, no, this is bullshit. What am I doing? I've got so much to give to the police officers, to first responders, because I could tell them I understand, not sympathize on so many different levels when it came to drinking too much alcohol, taking too many prescription meds, wanting to commit suicide. So I humbled myself really quick. And I said, you know what? If I can't wear the uniform anymore, I can only serve in a certain way. That's what I'll do. So, I don't glorify what I did, but, there's a lot of us that are out there self-medicating and losing everything. And suicide is up, and I wanted to do it, but I didn't. And I'm here and I'm continuing to fight, continuing to better myself. And I just want to get my story out there because others that are going through what I did, in our line of work, you just don't talk about it. Well, sorry, I'm going to. So this is where I'm at. My lifelong mission from here on out is I will talk about what I've been through. I will do anything to get my word, my message out there that if you're alone, if you're going through this stuff, you're not a monster like I thought I was. I didn't commit suicide. I didn't. I lost everything. But I decided that, you know what? I need to be there for my other Leos and let them know if that's my mission. So that's what I'm doing now.
Aaron, do you want to talk a little bit more about, well, let's go back a little bit. Do you want to talk a little bit about the article that you wrote? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, and I apologize. I'm trying to do the best I can, but because of the, my head injuries, sometimes I don't have the greatest deliveries. So I will tell you that I've had one TBI. I've had 5 other serious head injuries, concussions from falling. So I struggle. So please bear with me. So the article that I wrote, it was a night that I had an emotional support dog. I should start there. So I have an emotional support dog, little French bulldog. It was a night that I sat at my temporary grave, that damn table. I hated that table because I knew that's where I was going to die. It was a horrible night because nobody was awake. Everything was just all dark. Kids came by just to see me for the night. And every night when everybody goes to bed, it's like, all right, time to go to war. So like before, it was about 1:30 in the morning. And I said, I'm not going out like this. I'm going to, at that point, I hadn't lost everything yet. I said, I'm going to go out my way. So I had a plan in place. I went, grabbed my firearm, sat down at the table. And I remember looking out the window at a light. And I was in a trance. And I was thinking to myself, why am I fighting anymore? Why? So I said, let's go. So I got up, took my firearm, and it was it. I was done. And as I walked towards the door, my emotional support dog, he bit me in the leg, or in the ankle, excuse me. And he drew my attention, and I looked at him because I'm like, who the hell just did that? Because I had a mindset, and I don't like people messing with that. And it was my dog, again. So I said at that point, I'm not going to kill myself, but I'm going to do something different. So I walked over to my computer, literally sat my gun down, opened up the computer, and I said, I've got to find a purpose again. And got into the email, closed my eyes, I took 2 deep breaths, and I just typed what my heart and soul told me to type. And I typed out everything that you see in the article. I wanted it to be as real and raw and like in the moment as possible. So I didn't proofread it, sent it, closed the computer, and that was it. That was my way of trying to give back somehow and share my story, because I didn't think I was going to be alive much longer. I really didn't.
That's fascinating and rather self-reflective, impactful. We have a lot of people in this group who often talk about that. Can you talk about how therapeutic that was for you just to write that stuff down?
Yeah. It's so a lot of first responders, especially police officers, I think they struggle with control. When you go home, you want to be in control, because when you're at work, if you're not in control, things happen. Um, it was one of those times I was trying to get that control back. It was one of those times where I was going to make all the pain stop. But the way it was therapeutic for me was when I sat down. I remember I took those 2 deep breaths, and the one thing I had in my mind was, I may end up killing myself down the road. I don't know, but that was nothing to worry about at this time. I needed to get my message out there. And I was thinking, because if I do die, I at least get these words out. So when I started writing it, that was probably the calmest I had been in a very long time. So yeah, it was something that really helped. Very therapeutic, and it just kind of relaxed me, because I was in control of what I wrote. I was in control when I sent it. And that was just, it felt good to have a little control back. So
And
it
we
was,
just kind of talked a lot about how once you actually say it, or even more impactfully, once you write it down, now you're kind of forced to realize that it's real, and then you can
correct.
start moving forward from that.
Yeah. And it was really hard dealing with these emotions and this emotional and psychological stuff, because nobody could see the injury. So one of the things that I was doing is, since I lost everybody and I lost my career, after the Wounded Blue helped me, they got me in to see a psychiatrist. They were there with me the entire time to get myself better. I told myself at that point, this is what I'm going to dedicate my life to, this organization, because what they did for me, they gave me a purpose. They gave me a purpose by bringing me, they actually brought me into the Wounded Blue as a peer advocate. It gave me a purpose to wake up, because I had this thought when I was on the road, if I didn't get into work, there's a problem. People rely on me. People rely on me to be there. And I had the thought process, I didn't have anything. I had no wife, no kids, career's gone. If I would have died, nobody would have given a shit, because I don't have a purpose anymore. I mean, who the hell cares if Aaron Terrill dies at this point? I mean, because there's no purpose. And that was my mindset. So when I became an advocate with the Wounded Blue, it allowed me to have a purpose again and live my life. That was therapeutic as well. It just gave me something to do, and it was to help other officers. And that's what I try to do.
Okay. And you've mentioned this Wounded Blue probably
Yep.
about a dozen times now. Can you tell us a little bit about the Wounded Blue, what it is and what it does?
Yeah. So with the Wounded Blue, it's an organization. Most of us are all police officers, former police officers, and we do peer advocacy work. So last year, we work with police officers, whether you're active duty police, current police. We just started a chapter where we have spouses of first responders, and we're their advocate, whether it's to get them a counselor, psychiatrist, or we spent a lot of money working with HUD. There was an injured officer who needed his house redone, but it wasn't conducive to his injury. So we took care of it. We redid his house, and we're helping officers and their families get through these times and help them get the resources we need. So back in February 2020, or the 29th, it was a leap year. I was a peer advocate at the time, and we were going to start this called the Canine Companion Program, basically where we take French bulldogs and we partner them with officers as a therapeutic dog. I was the first one to receive my emotional support dog. He ultimately saved my life. So I said, I talked to my national founder, and we decided, hey, it helped me so much. Let's do something, because it can help so many others. So they said, hey, build it. So I've been working for about a year and a half, 2 years, creating this. It's called Partners with Paws program, and we provide police officers, retired police officers, emotional support animals, and we help them with service dogs. So, it gives me a reason to get up in the morning. It just cements the fact that I'm not just nothing. So they're the best organization in the world in my eyes.
Was there a eye-opening moment, a pivotal moment that said, you know what, as you called yourself a monster a couple of times, that you didn't have any self-worth, no mission? Was there a moment in time where you recognize that you're not a monster, that you are worth something? Or is that a daily struggle that you have to fight with every single day to find that purpose?
I'll be honest with you, right before I was with the Wounded Blue, yeah, every day. I could tell myself in the morning, I'm worth something, I got a purpose. And then because of my head injury, I would start to, with frontal lobe damage, I couldn't compartmentalize anything. So by the end of the day, I was back to feeling like a monster, and I was realizing I was alone. There was nobody home, and spending hot Christmas, Thanksgiving alone. It was like, it was. I was convinced I was still a monster. And then what changed my life, what saved my life, is when it got me to realize that I wasn't, was with you. And when we were in Vegas there for the bash, the Wounded Blue, Brothers in Blue bash, I had every intention on I couldn't do it anymore. And this was at a Brothers in Blue bash with the Wounded Blue. I was fighting this fight all the time with nobody there. And I'll never forget, I wasn't going to wake up in the morning, put it that way. I sat down. I'd never met you before, ever. We sat down and we talked, we spoke, and you had said something to me that made me redirect my thoughts. And I can never repay you for this. When we were talking, I was telling you that I was on I told you before, or not, we were talking, and during your initial part of our conversation, I knew that I had told you I was on the tactical team. And as we were talking, I was having a really hard time. And you kind of just said, hey, you're come from that SWAT mentality. What are you doing? Somebody, you have to alter your plan. And I said, and you said, you're compromised. And that's the words that we used. And when you said that to me, it clicked. And I don't know how it did it, but you saved me, and you saved my life that night. And to this day, brother, I can never thank you enough. But it's helping me now realize I'm not a monster. I've got some injuries, and you know what? I've got to get my word out there, because there's others like me, and they're not monsters either. So
damn straight.
That was the point. Yeah, that was the point when I started pushing through to being a monster, after I talked to you and you said what you did.
And that wasn't just a magic cure, was it? Is it still something that for everybody out there, is that something that you still struggle with every single day? Or is there a magic pill for you, or a cure, or a magic conversation?
Well, I'm going to be honest and not blow smoke at you. So because of my repeated head injuries, I have a lot of cognitive issues. I've had, like I said, the 5 head injuries and the TBI. Yeah, I have a lot of cognitive issues and memory issues. I've been getting lost, forgetting where I'm at. Many nights, apparently, I guess I've been calling for my kids. They weren't there. I was having all kinds of issues. And I was told, I've been going to the neurologist, that because of these injuries, I have some lesions throughout my brain, that I'm having seizures, and there's another progressive incurable disease that I could be potentially starting out in stage 1 with. And no, there's no magic pill for me anymore, because it's an incurable progressive disease. There's nothing they can do. And my neurologist is a very good friend of mine. And yeah, so there's no cure for me. So I'm kind of in a race to get my message out there, because I'm fighting a fight every day, and it's hard, but it's not about me. It's about what I can do and what I can offer.
So you found that purpose in that. And if I hear you correctly, that it may never, ever get over, right? You're still having to fight that battle every day and still find the happiness in things and still find that drive to keep pushing forward and find that purpose every day.
And that's the common denominator for me is, yes, it's something I fight every single day. It's something that there's no cure for it. It will progress. So yes, every day like today, I had a hard morning. There's times and I just cry and I can't stop. There's a lot of those days. But what I'm learning, there's also days that aren't so bad. So I'm trying to change my mindset. So when I have a bad day, I can try to remember, hey, there are good days ahead. And, I have, my issues are kind of compounding and getting a little bit more persistent, but, I'm holding on to it and trying to
Where do you draw that hope from every day?
I try to draw it from within, but and what you said to me, out of everything that's ever been said to me, and I'm not blowing smoke at you, you didn't give up on me. You did nothing but you said the word that clicked. You saved my life. I've been friends with you since, and you remind me that I do have a purpose, because I was a piece of garbage. I was a monster. And you have worked with me and you have reminded me that I'm not. And the fact that I'm still alive, you have given me the ability for my kids not to come see me at a grave when they have time. And I draw that, I really do. There's times when I've wanted to do things and I'm like, no, I'm not. I told Chris, I'm not going to do this. So I guess I kind of draw from within, but you have given me so much. I can't even begin to tell you.
And I said that's a very emotional thing.
Yeah. One day my kids, I will, before what I'm dealing with takes over, you're going to meet my kids and they're going to see you and they're going to know what you did for me. Because if it wasn't for you, I'd never left Vegas. Because that way they didn't have to see me. I was always afraid they would come downstairs and they'd find me at that damn table. I was in Vegas that night. That's shit that they deal with all the time out there. That was what I was going to do. But I didn't because of you. And I got to stay around long enough for them to meet you.
That's powerful, brother. And I think that in all of that to be said is that how important this tribe is, how important it is to have those people around you that will be there for you 24/7 no matter what, and that you can cry with. Here we are. that you can be that vulnerable with.
In this group I know I've said it before a while back, and I told Sarah, I didn't have any family. I pushed them all away, and they were scared of me. I didn't hurt anybody, but I was a monster. And the only consistency I had was this group. And I loved it because I knew I wouldn't scare everybody away and you'd be there next week. And even if I was a monster, you guys were still going to be here. You were consistently here. And even if it's for different topics or whatever, you guys accepted me for me. And I hadn't had that in a long time. I never thought I'd ever have it again. So this group is amazing. So I draw a lot of strength from that as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of power here. We were talking a little bit before the call, is that this is like a counseling session that you can have with your tribe, if you will, right? That you can do anywhere. Right. Look, you're doing it from your car. I'm doing it from a hotel room in Las Vegas, right? You got Chris Hoyer on his couch there, nice and relaxed. and this is for the power of our story. This is something that you can come to every week for the entire hour. Sometimes we go a little more. It's something that you can pop in for 10 minutes just to get what you need. It's something that you can disappear from for 3 weeks, and then we'll start calling you and checking on each other. But it's always here. It's a constant. And I think that as first responders, that's one of the things that we lose, that I don't necessarily think that we grieve when we choose or not always choose to walk away from our profession, is you miss that community, that tribe.
Yeah.
That's what we have that sense of here.
It took me a lot of time to figure this out, but I always thought that badge made me, that uniform made me. It took me about 4 years. And I thought to myself, that badge is an inanimate tin object. That badge did not make me. I made that badge. That badge represented me and all the other Leos out there in the world. And that helped me a little bit, kind of understand. And not wearing the uniform is, it destroyed my life, but it didn't have to completely destroy it. And that's part of the message I want to get out is, so many of us, the days of after work, grabbing a beer and doing whatever you do before you go home, those days are gone. We have too many cops committing suicide. You just can't do that anymore. So, I was self-medicating. It wasn't for any other reason than try to make the damn dreams go away and try to take the pain away. And, I did. I self-medicated, and it was a bad way to do things. But you know what? I did it. And I don't want people going down that road like me. And because I almost died a couple of times. I did. So, but I'm not ashamed of it. I don't glorify it, but behind closed doors, it was bad. I was taking more meds than I should have to try to make the pain go away, and drinking more than I should have been. And I know a lot of us do that, and everybody's ashamed of it. I was, but I just want to put it out there. I have no problem telling my story now. No problem at all.
I'd like to highlight something that you said just to kind of encapsulate it. What I heard you say in kind of summation there is that you don't have to wear that piece of tin, that uniform, to serve. You can serve in so many capacities outside of that. I don't see any single one of us right now in a uniform, and here we are, right? So not to let that be your identity. It's what you do, it's how you do, it's who you are that makes, not the uniform.
Well, and that's the thing. What I'm so proud of, being with the Wounded Blue, I get to help officers that are going through a lot of stuff. And cops are really hard to warm up to. I mean, you got about 2 seconds to get their attention or you're done. So, I have the opportunity to understand a lot of things that officers are going through. And, it gave me a purpose and a reason to wake up. And you're right, I didn't need a uniform to do that. And, I started doing this Partners with the Paws program. I put this program together, to provide emotional support dogs, service dogs to people, or officers at no cost. I have gone from, I wanted to commit suicide because I was a monster. I decided that I wasn't going to be a victim, share my story. And now, I'm one of the directors within the organization. So I would tell people, times are tough. And when you hit rock bottom, and then you can go you fell even lower than rock bottom, we can't get through it. Just that mentality of being a warrior, you don't quit. And I started using the mentality, I lost my kids right now, but damn it, I'm going to change. I want to get them back. And that's what I have to do.
I love that. Brother, thank you so much for sharing that. If you're okay with it, I'd like to open it up for everyone else to talk. So Sarah, I'd like to turn it over to you. We'll start with you. Oh, there she is.
Oh gosh, Aaron, this was such a great talk. And I mean, and then just to hear the impact that Chris had. I mean, he's definitely big-hearted guy, and just the timing, I always think that's just total divine orchestration, getting the right person right there when you need someone the most. And everything about your story, I just think spiritually, like, oh my gosh, the plan, it was not your time. There's more work to be done. And I just also want to encourage you too, that again, I just think spiritually about this, that I think all of us who have a passion to help bigger than ourselves, to help this world, to be servant leaders. I have not met anyone that did not hit a rock bottom or a darkness, and that healing is messy. You are not a monster. We're all in this with you in one form or another. It looks different for all of us, just a different flavor. But I just want to applaud your courage. And let's see, there's something I want to ask you. Is your ex-wife going to see this? Do you think you'll ever play this for your family?
We get along fine, and I hope, I want everybody that wants to see it to see it. So whether she does, I'm not sure, but I want my family to see it, and I want everybody else to see it, just because, I've come a long ways, and like I said, if I can just reach one person, then my mission's completed. But, she may see it, she may not,
Oh,
but my family will for sure.
I was just curious, but it's so good to hear that. And I tell you, my heart, I was close to tears so much hearing you share, just for your courage. Again, it's your courage to do this and your care. And you are an amazing human being, and you are absolutely going to help people deeply by just sharing your story. And I just also, again, want to thank Chris Gregorio. You are absolutely something special too. And I'm so grateful to have both of you having this conversation, and then we all get to join in too. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Such a blessing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chris Hoyer, you've got your hand up, sir. And you're on mute.
I am on mute. Sorry about that. Sorry on me to get out of line or out of place here in line here, but a couple things. Aaron, you touched on it with Chris. Him and I, it turned out the word doppelganger came up between another conversation that I had with Goodell today about you, man. Side note, I'm going to take the stage just for a second. Chris and I had a really good conversation last night. He saved me again, which he does on a freaking semi-regular basis. So God bless that guy, man. Unbelievable. So I was struggling pretty bad last night, and now I'm okay, by the way, just so you know.
Yep.
Got a return message from another person, another long conversation that we kind of fixed our stuff for the most part. So I don't normally write stuff down, but I've got a few things that I had to just throw out there for you. First and foremost, for you guys that don't know, let me show you this.
Wow.
That's my flag. I'm about 90% sure you're on there. I didn't realize that we had already met. We met at the Wounded Blue in Vegas.
Yeah. You know what? You're asking a guy with a head injury.
Dude, I don't have one, and I still can't remember. So I know.
Okay.
Right? So, that's what I was looking on there, because I know your name is on here somewhere, because I know you signed that thing at some point.
Excellent.
So for the rest of the group, at some point in time, you guys are all going to end up on my flag too. That's just one of my personal things. So another story, but so there's that. Getting back into the meat and potatoes of the whole thing. First thing I want you to recognize, dude, all the stuff you're going through, not your fault. All right. Definitely not your fault that you got hit, that you had a TBI, that you made a decision to respond to that call. I had a very similar circumstance where I decided I'm going to go down there and try to take care of business, and then I got my ass handed to me. That's my story for sure of another time when you and I have a one-on-one. And I had to come to terms with, you know what, dude? Yeah, I made the decision to wear the badge, but it's not my fault, the stuff that I had to go through. And having to make a recovery from that wasn't an easy thing. But you mentioned how you lost everything. I'm going to call bullshit on that, because you haven't lost everything. You have now gained a new family. With all of us here, I guarantee we're all on the same page.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thanks, bro.
And if you do get your kids back and everything else, I have a similar situation. I lost my daughter, my granddaughter, because of my ex-wife, which is a whole nother story for me as well. Hoping to do the same thing and get them back as well. So, and the last few things I'm going to touch on. First and foremost, I love that you're smiling. Okay. That for me is a huge step forward. It's like, look, if you can look at all this shit and pour yourself out to a bunch of strangers and still smile about it, dude, that's huge. And I'm going to end it with this and then move on, because if you let me go, I'll keep talking all day long. You have reached me. So you've reached that one person you're looking to reach, and you reached me, man, big time. And I love you. So.
Love you, brother. That really makes me feel good. And man, I'm so happy and I'm so proud that it got to you. Sometimes I really do have a hard time on my delivery. I talk kind of like a big circle instead of just getting to the point, or forgetting what I'm saying in mid-sentence, because of my head injuries. So I'm really glad that I was able to convey it enough to get to you and reach you. And I'm proud, bro. I am proud. And I'm always I would do anything for anybody.
You absolutely have, man. You brought a bunch of stir back up bunch of stuff with me. I'm like, oh no, don't cry today. Come on, I had enough crying last night. I don't need more today. But man,
Yes,
you
sir.
got me, man. So I love it. So,
Well, I'm glad. Thanks. Love you, brother. I'm glad you're good.
cool. Right
You know,
on.
Aaron, to just one thing, I think that you keep talking about your cognitive issues and forgetting things or whatever. That's actually a tremendous part of your story. It shows that you're still battling those things every day and you're still able to push forward, so that when people see this, maybe they can reflect and be like, well, my life sucks, but at least I'm not having to go through that. This guy's fighting that, so I can fight through something. So
Absolutely.
I would encourage you to, as you start to process this, is to not apologize for those things. You can let people know that it's there, but not apologize for it, because I actually think that it makes you a stronger warrior. I think it actually makes you more impactful, more relatable, and gives a different perspective to people. So
Okay.
that's fantastic. I think it's a beautiful thing.
Thanks, bro. Thank you so much. Because I'm really, really self-conscious about it, because
Of course.
I want my delivery, because I had to learn real quick. Humble yourself. It's not about Aaron Terrill. It's not about me. I have the ability to reach out, and if I talk about it, does it bring up issues? Sure, absolutely. When I show my video of me getting hit, the in-car, does it hurt? Yeah, cost me issues at night. But this is not about me, and the world doesn't owe me to feel good and have those warm, fuzzy feelings. So I humbled myself, and when I talk about it, it's tough. And watching that video, give me a couple nights of bad sleep, whatever. But just with that possibility of reaching somebody, I'll take those issues. I'll take those struggles for a while, because it's not about me. I have the ability to put a lot out there and touch people that are struggling. So you know what? It's a no-brainer for me.
Love it. Love it. Michelle, Sister Michelle.
Let me unmute myself first. But first of all, Chris Hoyer kind of stole my line, but I'm also your one.
Yes, I love it.
I'm never going to be able to thank you enough. And I feel like I have to thank Chris Gregorio too, because it's like things are set in motion. And when I came on The Power of Our Story for the first time I think it was September, October timeframe, and it was your story. I told Sarah a while back, if it would have been anyone else, I don't know if it would have grabbed me the way that you did, because I was in such a state of loneliness and darkness that I physically felt like I had nobody around me. And mentally, I think the mental aloneness was even bigger for me.
Yep.
And so, like, when I heard your story the first time, I got off and I just cried. But for the first time in almost a year, I had cried with relief, because I was like, well, shit, someone else is going through it too. Like, it is not my brain. I may be broken, but there's someone else who is broken too. So
Yeah.
I love that. And I don't know how my life would have gone if it hadn't been your story. And I firmly believe that God put you on that night and put me on that night. Thank you to one of my friends. But that was meant to happen. So I am so appreciative of your journey.
Man, wow.
It's amazing to me, because I told Sarah I've never met you before, but there is a sense of connection that I feel with you that like I don't get it, but I knew we were supposed to meet somehow in this lifetime.
I love it. I love it. That makes me feel really good hearing you say that. It really does. I would do anything for anybody. So I'm just, wow, your words, that chokes me up. But
well, I think like your just genuine giving comes through anytime that you talk. And you're like my hashtag goals, because I want to find that within myself. I want to be able to say, it's okay that I'm going through this. Let me use it to help somebody else. And I'm slowly getting to that point, and The Power of Our Tribe has been an amazing helping hand with that.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I watch you and I watch your journey, and I hear your story, and I'm like, yep, that's who I want to be when I grow up. Like,
Thank you so much. I mean, that really means the world to me. So thank you so much.
you're
And,
welcome. And I
That
gotta ask,
absolutely is the power of this story, right? You can come here, you might not be able to relate or closely connect with everybody because it's a big group of people. You'll never have that. But there's that chance that you have this immediate connection with somebody that very well could be life-changing or life-saving.
yeah, I think life-saving is a very important term right there, Chris. I really
Yeah.
do.
I do. Yep.
But I did have 2 questions for you, Aaron.
Yeah, absolutely.
One, your table, that oak table, is it gone or have you reconciled with it?
Mm.
You know, that's a good question because that was a big deal for me. I hated that table. When I referred to that table, because that's where I would go every night and cry. That's where I'd go every night and sit and look out the window, and that damn street light, it would just put me in this trance, and I was at that damn table. It wouldn't matter where I was. I ended up at that table. So as I started getting a little bit better, I started pushing through some of this. I hated that table. And I turned it in for my temporary grave site for when they were going to find me. As I was pushing through things and I was learning what I can do, that table became more of a competition. No longer did I hate it and want to burn it. I wanted to defeat it. I wanted to show it, I'm getting my control back. This damn table is not going to take this from me. And I'm not going to die at that table. So the more therapy I was getting, the more I started to get back who I was, what I felt like. I ended up sitting down at that table and I wrote another article and I called it a table instead of a damn grave, my temporary grave site. So for me, something that I knew I was going to die at, something I despised, that turned that table into my trophy for when I could sit at it and call it a table, because I couldn't do that until I realized I wasn't a piece of shit. I'm not a monster. And it's just a table. It's a damn table, but it wasn't. It was a victory for me because that table controlled me. And so I still have it. Now it's a table.
I think
Yeah.
that's great, especially because I have the same issue with my couch. I have when I shared my story on here, I kind of touched on that, but my couch is a L shape, and it in that little corner is what I call the dark hole. And I lived on that little dark hole
Yeah.
for longer than I care to admit. But I would even sleep there because I couldn't sleep on my own bed because the nightmares were so bad. And
Absolutely.
then like the couch is in the center of everything. So that was, my 4-year-old daughter could come to me and I could see her no matter where she was at. So my therapist talked me through that and was like, maybe consider getting a new couch. And I'm like, yeah, because it's so fucking stupid. It's a couch, right? Just like a table. But one thing that I started doing with helping out and taking over social media for Power of Our Story is I have purposefully now sat in that corner of the couch to do my work for Power of Our Story because I feel that purpose coming in. So I'm like, you know what? And I like that you kind of put it that you conquered it, because I'm like, I'm conquering that stupid black hole and showing that it can be positive.
Absolutely. And good for you. And I will tell you, stick with it and keep fighting because that table's, well, now it's a table, but it's a trophy to me. Anytime I think, like I can't do this, I do. It might sound corny, but I will look at that table and I'm like, it's symbolic towards me. It might be funny to other people, like, well, that's weird. No,
I get it.
Symbolic. Yeah, good. You keep fighting that.
Well, thank you so much for sharing everything.
Thank you so much.
That was something more powerful than I think could even been said, because I think a lot of times, like Michelle's therapist said, hey, get rid of it, burn it, chop it up, whatever, you're destroying it that way. Right. But I think that you have made the decision, you made the choice, you took power and control to make it your trophy. It went from something very negative to something that you can hold up. I think that that's super. I never would have thought about that.
Yeah, it's and one of the, and this is me being honest, and I'm, like I said, I don't glorify the way I handle things, but I would take measures to not sleep, and because I had 4 particular calls that involved children and very graphic, horrible, unspeakable. I'm not going to get into it, but I would have these dreams at night, and I'd wake up. I'd actually sometimes I'd wake up sitting at that table and bleeding everywhere from scratching myself. You know, and I just completely lost where I was going with that. Sorry, I lost where I was going with that. I don't know what the hell I was going to say. Sorry, I completely lost you.
You're all good. You can circle back to it if it pops back up. Mr.
Oh,
Paul,
all right.
good to you, brother.
Wait, can I real quick, what
Absolutely.
it was? I'm sorry. So what I was getting at is part of my journey getting better was those nightmares, those dreams that I would have. I would take measures for my prescription meds that they gave me to not sleep. So I would take several Adderall XRs because I knew if I went to sleep, I would have those vivid dreams. I mean, it was so real. Or when I was out of Adderall, because I would go through a month's supply in 5 days, I knew I really had a problem when I could take sleep aids, and I knew inside my head how many I had to take, how long it would take to metastasize my body, when it would take effect. Because if I were to take something to relax to go to sleep, then I knew what was coming. I knew that I was getting ready for a war in my head. So I decided I'd have to start snowballing myself. And I decided that, you know what, a normal dose of diphenhydramine, over-the-counter sleep aid, 50 milligrams to take, I was at 2,000 milligrams a night. And it wasn't to kill myself. It was to not dream, not think about it, you know, and that's one of those things I want to get out there that, you know, that was a struggle for me. That was sleep. So I'd go days without sleeping and taking things to make that happen. So, you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a powerful thing. And I think that you're not alone in that, and that there's a lot of people that do that to run from those dreams and to not sleep. And our brains don't heal emotionally, physically, spiritually. We have to have that sleep for that brain to recover.
You do. Yeah.
Paul.
Well, first, Aaron, I want to thank you for being vulnerable, for having the courage to admit what you did today in the presence of a lot of people that you don't know,
Yes, sir.
as well as some that you do. But I would also like for you to recognize that this is an absolutely safe environment
Thank
for
you.
you to say whatever's on your heart.
Thank you.
And that stands for everybody. My sense is that you got to a point, and probably by utter exhaustion, that you lost hope.
Absolutely.
And
It was.
it ends. No hope, there's nothing left.
Yeah.
And so there are some exercises you can do which will help you relax and calm down and get to sleep without using any meds. And for that, I'm going to refer you to Terry Peters, who is on this show and knows all about that and then some. And you really do need to get in touch with her. I can't highly enough recommend 220 as well. But you have some challenges that can be dealt with quickly. And,
Yes,
and Terry knows how to do that. And she's done it for me. And so I share that for whatever it's worth.
Oh, it's worth a lot. Thank you.
Our life is a collection of the choices and experiences that we have had up to this moment. And I say that because on the one hand, we have choices, but on the other hand, we have experiences that we either enjoyed or could not avoid. And I was a field training officer for a number of years after I became a sergeant. And one of the hardest things that I had to do was to get new people, recruits who are just gung-ho as can be, to understand that the uniform was not who they were. It was a role that they played and a means of identification and nothing more.
Right.
Yes, you were armed. There's a reason for that, but it's, you know, people get stuck behind the badge. And I,
Right.
in more than one roll call, said that badge is not bulletproof.
Right.
And so start your conversation up here. And if somebody else wants to take it down, they will. But if you start it down here, it's never going to get back up there. It's only going to deteriorate. And so those are lessons, I suppose, that I learned,
Yeah.
and that became rewards for me to be able to share with others. And I think
Absolutely.
that you're doing exactly the same thing. And I so admire that and appreciate it.
Thank you.
I will share one other piece and then I'll stop. I have lots of notes here, but this is important.
Yes, sir.
And that is that I have seen Michelle Franklin go from somebody who was uncertain of herself, who was in gloom and doom mode, if you will, turn into this pretty smiling face that we're looking at right now. And that is so precious to me. I've never met her in person, but the fact is that to see her go from one extreme sort of to the other extreme, which is where she is now, is impressive, to say the least.
Absolutely.
And that is available to everybody on this call, because of the things that we are willing to share and the things that we are willing to learn from those who have shared.
Absolutely.
And
Yes, sir.
for that, I truly appreciate it. And Chris, you're doing an absolutely amazing job in hosting this. And there's Sarah sitting there with her hand up. I know she's got something to say. So anyway, thank you so much for the time.
Thank you, sir. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Miss Terry Peters.
I want to piggyback on what Paul just said. Chris, phenomenal job facilitating this, so thank you. I also want to thank you for your words in saving Aaron. That was extremely powerful, and I really appreciate that.
Very much.
Aaron, as far as your story goes, extremely heartfelt. You were heard. And I
Right.
really hope that you keep returning and stay with us.
Oh, yeah.
As far as, I love the fact that you shared and you realized along your journey
Mhm.
that it was a job. It wasn't, it's not who we are.
Correct.
And then also the fact that you kept referring to yourself as a monster. And then you after you said you were a monster, you reiterated the fact that you didn't hurt anybody. I don't believe, I know you saw yourself as a monster. In hearing what you shared, I see you as somebody who's extremely sensitive, who needed to help your heart and didn't know what to do.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
think that, yeah, that's a huge difference from being a monster.
Yeah,
So,
it's tough.
yeah, I appreciate you being here with us, and I really appreciate your sharing. Thank you.
Thank you so much for saying that. It really feels good. Thank you.
Terry's a powerhouse in this group. And if you don't know Terry, and I'm not trying to put you on blast here, but if she came here the first several weeks, it was impossible to get her to smile. And that's why I said at the very beginning of this, now she is like one of the happiest beams of light in this group. And she's a true powerhouse. Thank you for sharing that, Terry.
Well, I mean, on the heels of that, Aaron, like I can totally identify with the only place really feeling at peace is when you're thinking of taking your own life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
none of us knowing and going through the healing process,
Mhm.
in knowing that, I mean, I truly believe everything happens for us. And it is all part of our journey, and then we turn around and with our level of sensitivity and wanting to give back, here we are.
I agree. Very much so. Very much so.
So powerful and insightful. Thank you, Terry.
Yes.
Miss Brienne, thank you for your patience.
Hey, no worries. Hey, Terry, I just want to say thank you for sharing too. I can appreciate what you're saying. So I wrote down a couple of things so I wouldn't lose my train of thought here. I'll be quick, but I'm new to this group, and thanks to Chris Hoyer and Chris Hoyer, thank you for inviting me here. It's where I've been searching for somewhere where I feel like I belong. And I've tried a lot of things, and this is the only place where I feel that. So thank you, everybody. I wanted to say that I just, like a couple of others have said, you spoke to me, and so when you hope that you reached out to one person, spoke to someone, I'm in that group. It's no accident. I for the first time in a long time, I actually slept in this morning, which was shocking to me because I also avoid sleep because of my nightmares. And so I happened to see a message from Sarah and about this, about you speaking today, and it's no accident. So forgive me for coming in late, but I know it's no accident. I was meant to be here today to hear you. So you have helped me. So please keep that in your mind. Okay.
Thank you so much.
The things that really spoke to me that you brought up, and I was just telling my husband yesterday, one of the things that I try to do these days, and I'm not good with words, so bear with me in putting my thoughts together.
Cross my know the feeling.
Yeah, is that, you know, I'm recently retired, less than a year from 22 years in first responder status, and it's everything I know. And I was telling my husband, I'm trying to find that purpose. And one of the things I have found that I think is important is for the people who have helped me hear the feedback. And so I want you to know what spoke to me. And that is the bad, you said, I wrote it down, that the badge you felt made you, but it didn't. You made that badge. And holy shit, dude, it clicked with me.
Wow, good.
Because I'm struggling with that and my identity and who I am. Crap, I'm really trying not to get emotional. And so thank you for saying that, because it's like, you know what? I did. I made my uniform what it represented. It didn't represent me. I represented it.
No, that's right.
And I have my own table. It's not a table, but I have my own place. So I appreciate you being open and honest about that, because I think so many people have their own table. And I appreciate Terry, when you said the time that you feel most at peace is when you make that decision. And so without getting into that, I think we all can most of us can understand that. So anyway, I just want you to know that you spoke to me on more than one thing of, and I have a whole list of quotes that you said of what I related to. And that's one of my newest things. I'm not a journaler, hate it. But what I've started to do is pull things that matter to me, that
Right.
speaks to me. And you now have a page in my book.
That's
And so
incredible.
it's something that I can reflect back on those dark days. So know that you made a difference. Okay. So thank you for being here. And thank
Oh my-
you, you guys, for having me.
Oh my God, what wow. First of all, I want to tell you congratulations for making it here and talking. It's really hard. It's hard to do that, and I'm glad I was able to reach out to you. And I think Chris put out my phone number to everybody. If there's ever anything I can do, ever, I'll do anything. I do anything, even if it's just you want to talk, and that goes for everybody. I'm here. I'm always here. So I'm proud of you. Good. I'm really glad. Really
Thank you.
glad
And
you're
I'm
here.
also proud of you as well.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Yes, ma'am. Thank
You're
you.
in good company.
I love it. I love it.
We're all so amazing. If I could say something to everybody on this group and whoever's going to hear this, just to kind of really solidify this damn uniform symbolism, identity. When you're off duty, when you're in the job, but when you're off duty and with your family and there's somebody broke down or in a car accident or somebody needs help, what are you going to stop and help them? I know every single one of you are, and it has not a damn thing to do with that uniform or that badge. It's who you are. It's what you are, and it's what you choose to give everybody.
Right. Yep.
Has nothing to do with that gosh dang uniform. You
Yep.
make the individual actions, individual decisions every single day, whether you're in the military or some sort of first responder, you make that the uniform represents who you are, not the other way around. Because whether you're on duty or off duty, active or retired, medically or whatever, that's who you are. You made that uniform, not any other damn thing. So let me just really solidify that point there, because that's for every single person.
Yep.
Thank
Absolutely.
you, Brianne, for sharing that.
Yeah.
I said this at the beginning. This was going to be an emotional thing, and I love you for it. Thank you for being new to the group, and thank you for having that courageous vulnerability to put that out there. Because although we're talking to Aaron today, you right now touched somebody, you impacted somebody else. Because you know what, for whatever it is, we're talking to a man today, then somebody might not be able to relate to him, but they were able to relate to Michelle and Brianne and Terry, because you come from a different perspective. And they're like, oh, wow, that one actually reached me. So that right there is the power of our story.
Absolutely.
Miss Sarah, back to you.
First off, I want to say, Brianne, I am fired up to see you on today. I'm so glad you got my message. That's so cool, because you know what, your sharing was so powerful, and I had a feeling that this would be a good connection here. And I just want to say all of your sharing was so powerful. Thank you for your vulnerability. I also want to say, Terry, I really appreciated what you said about Aaron calling himself a monster. It landed the same way with me. And I'm like, Aaron, you are not a monster. You are not a monster. You are responding, like they say, normally to the abnormal conditions you have been in. And I cannot tell you how many stories I've heard of these incredibly noble people. Like one Navy SEAL comes to mind where, he couldn't understand why he was acting the way he was acting. And then he saw a brain scan. He's got holes all over his brain because he was a breacher. And all he could do was just, drink himself into oblivion so he could find sleep. You know what I'm saying? This is a human experience, and it's your courage that is willing to stand up and saying, okay, healing is messy, but I'm willing to do it. And you are giving the voice to other people. And I also, really quickly, this is the last thing. I do want to ask you about your sleep now. And I want to say, after you connect with Terry, and, whatever happens between both of you with the 22-0 TRP, if that helps you, there is something else. It's called nightwear, where we've had people come on for specifically for night nightmares, sorry, blah. It's like a little Apple Watch, and it gently vibrates when it learns your patterns. And when you are about to go into having a nightmare, it gently breaks that cycle. And so the actual data can come back saying, a person has had 26 nightmares, but it was interrupted, and it has changed people's life. And I wonder too, if that could be helpful, because we also know that our bodies and our brains heal
Right.
when we sleep.
Right.
So anyway, I just wanted to end with that, leave you with that, but just beautiful sharing, all of you. And again, Chris and Aaron, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And just to touch on the monster thing real quick, a perfect example of that for everybody that we can look up to or think that we put somebody on a pedestal. I encourage you to read Tom and Jen Satterley's book, All Secure. You want to talk about somebody who's gone through the fire and has done monstrative things. They weren't a monster, but have done monstrative things and things that they've had to compete with in the same realm that you're talking about, Aaron. I'll send you the book.
Please.
It is life changing, and somebody else who I work with, and I'll say life saving as well, to put things into perspective that you can make it through that fight.
Well, I appreciate that, man. And I just want to say thank you to everybody for letting me come on and just talk. And I try to do the best I could, but like I said, man, these head injuries cause problems. So I'm sure when I get off the line, I'm going to go, man, I wish I would have said that. But I want anybody ever has any questions, needs to vent or ask me anything. Chris put my number out there. Please call me. If you know anybody that's struggling, or I provide emotional support dogs to officers, retired officers. I'll do anything. It's just my way of giving back. So thank you guys. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. And we're sitting here at about an hour and 22 minutes. I see Paul's got his hand up, and I think unless anybody else has something, we'll wrap up with Paul and then turn it back over to Sarah for closing. Paul?
I want to share something with somebody who is not here today, or from somebody who's not here today, named David Perez. He is a 30-year retired police officer. He distinguishes the role from the person by saying you must earn your badge every day. And that is so true on a number of fronts, but I thought I would just share that for whatever it's worth. And this is from him, not from me. I'm just the messenger here, but it's very powerful.
Yeah.
It is. And on another thing that David shares that I think is so impactful, that helps so many people, and we kind of talked about at the very beginning, is the ability to look at somebody else and say, you know what, me too. Feeling like you're not on this island alone. I mean, if we think about it, the United States, if you didn't come across anybody, that's an island all by yourself. And if you isolate yourself, you are on that island by yourself. But when you start to open up your view, you realize that there's millions of people just like you that are in the same situation. So we're not alone. And I've gone through that struggle of feeling isolated and alone, but through so many different things, and especially this group, you're not alone. And you being able to tell these stories, all of you, how special you are, to let everybody know that it's not just Aaron. Oh, it's just me and Aaron. No, you're all selflessly sharing and vulnerably sharing these things with everybody. Let them know, holy cow, there's all these different people that are suffering and struggling just like me, but I can make it through it.
Yep. Absolutely.
Chris Gregorio, real quick.
All right, sorry guys, I got to throw one more thing in there. Since we're talking about the badge, I saw something that really hit me the other day. It says the badge has no weight until you put it on. And I think that everybody here, even though Sarah, I know what you're going to say, you're not a first responder, but you've worn that badge now because of what you're doing, and it's huge. And because we've all been in whatever kind of situation that we're in, we've all carried that weight of that badge, and now we understand. It's huge. And for Aaron, for you specifically, I want you to recognize that, dude, this is probably very overwhelming for you. Trust me, when I was in your shoes, when I first came on, I was like, I don't know how to process all this. I got so much information. But I want you to take it on board and recognize that, man, we're all all here for you. So that's what it's all about, man. So love you
Thank
again.
you so much. Love you, brother. Thank you so much, man. Thank you.
And real quick to the badge, and yes, Sarah wasn't a first responder or a military member, but I would say that that badge is symbolism of selflessness, of giving, of service. So you don't have to be a cop or a firefighter or military, whatever, to have whatever this badge is. The badge is something that is just reflective of giving, of putting other people before you,
Right.
of helping without asking for or wanting anything in return.
Right.
And Sarah, in my opinion, is the epitome of that.
Absolutely. Yes.
Sarah, thank you everybody to be here with the Power of Our Story Coffee and Conversation, as me and Paul were drinking our coffee throughout this conversation, cheesy as it was, Christopher Hoyer. But you know, please always look for the Power of Our Story every week, Thursdays and Fridays. And Sarah will put all the links down below. And Sarah, I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you everybody so much. You're muted, Sarah.
Thank you. You know, this was unexpected. Thank you, Chris. You know what just came up to me just to end this talk. As somebody who is actually not a first responder, but I appreciate those kind words, Chris, of including me in this, you know, realm. I just want you to know, I am a connector just by nature. I have been around so many different kinds of people, so many different groups. And what I would want to shout to the media and the world is the first responders, you all, and the veterans that I have connected with on the Power of Our Story are honestly the most giving, serving people. It is in your wiring and in your nature to be servant leaders. And that's why it is just this unexpected journey to somehow tag team with you guys and get your voices out there to have a place of safety for our protectors who are doing so much for us. So I just want to thank you again. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, all of you. And thank you, Aaron. And you know, you've got major cheerleaders here for you. So
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, Sarah. Without you and without what you're doing and what you give us, you know, I wouldn't have found that family that I found. I just thank you. You know, you are also saving lives. You are. This is amazing. So thank you for the opportunity. Thank you so much.
thank you.